So, as you might be aware, right, Magento 2, new platform, whole new feature set. You've got these exciting APIs. You have really cool stuff there. As part of that effort, we committed year and a half ago, that we were going to continuously work on improving the performance and scalability of Magento 2. And we've made further progress with our upcoming release. And I'm going to introduce Ola Kobanchenko, who's going to give us the deep dive on performance.
Hi guys, thank you Chuck for presentation. My name is Ola Kobanchenko. I'm engineer manager on Magento 2 project, and I'm driving most of performance and scalability initiatives in our product. And today I will acquaint you with our most fresh performance updates in Magento 2. In this presentation we will talk about most exciting features that were added to Magento during last year. Actually, there are much more performance features present in Magento 2, but not all of them can fit into one presentation, so part of them were presented on previous Imagine, and here will be just most fresh, as I said. As well as we'll go through all integrations and version updates available in Magento 2 out of the box, and solutions for scalability. We will acquaint you with most fresh performance measurement results on all the tests we perform for Magento 2, and as well as share with you our best practices on how to tune environments, services, and Magento 2 itself in order to get that maximum results. Let's start with server-side features and improvements that were added to Magento 2 since last Imagine, and will be available pretty soon in upcoming 2.1 release. So first of all is promotions optimization. Please raise your hand who actively work with card promotions in Magento. Okay, lots of people. So those of you who raised your hands may know that Magento 1 demonstrates its maximum efficiency when it comes to certain not very high amount of card promotion rules. Meanwhile, Magento 2 is totally free of any limitations here. By using pre-processing for our rules as well as probabilistic approach for rule selection, we managed to achieve support of thousands of rules registered in system, as well as hundreds of rules actively applied to a shopping cart, definitely with no performance effect on your checkout or cart operations. Magento 2 search comes with a new mechanism, with a new search mechanism, so that in addition to high precision of search results, we'll give you an opportunity to serve more search requests, as well as experience no dependency between response time and matches you have according to a query. In terms of catalog, we added caching of catalog menu on all the catalog pages, as well as a bunch of rendering optimizations that allows you to load your cached pages in less than 50 milliseconds, independently on whether it's varnished or not varnished solution, as well as non-cached requests in 300 or 400 milliseconds. Finally, Magento 2 framework, heart of our product, results of numerous innovations, bringing you best practices on application development and huge opportunities on customization. This part of Magento also passed through a number of improvements. Now our observers satisfy single responsibility principle, so just one event, one observer, and single method inside, as well as we perform continuous work on heavy objects decomposition, making them more light, more manageable, and more performant. So in each further releases, you'll see less and less classes having lots of dependencies in constructor. So we are targeting to have as much simple objects as it's possible. Good performance is always a combination of server-side and client-side features. As a whole, all the internet solutions are moving towards Web 2.0, client-side applications and mobile devices. Magento 2 team accounts this experience and brings you a list of client-side features, allowing to make data loading process smooth and imperceptible for your clients. First of all, it's asynchronous addition of products to cart. You just add product to cart and continue shopping with no page reload. So now nothing will stop you from making more shopping and fulfilling your cart. Checkout in Magento 2 is completely rendered on client side. There are just 3 easy steps that will trigger page reload. The rest of information will be loaded asynchronously while you are fulfilling your form or selecting your shipping and payment options. We also reworked a way how private data is loaded to catalog pages. So now you get your category, product, or content page as fast as possible directly from Varnish. All customer-specific data or all private blocks will be loaded in background without interrupting your shopping experience. In terms of admin experience, Magento 2 has client-side rendering for admin grids that allows you to have inline editing opportunities, more flexibilities on how you display and manage your grids, as well as release resources that previously were used for rendering on server side. In addition to features you've just seen, we also built up and extended number of integrations available in Magento 2 out of the box. First of all, it's some technical stack updates. Nginx is now in a list of supported web servers, so you could notice it on system requirements page for Magento 2. Yes, it is fully supported, as well as it comes with sample configuration file out of the box. Sample configuration file for Nginx already contains all recommended settings for this web server. Totally proud to say that Magento 2 supports PHP 7 out of the box. All our tests, whether it's automatic or manual tests, are executed against PHP 7. Having an effective combination of Magento 2 and PHP 7, you'll get absolutely amazing performance. We'll see the results a bit later. In terms of integrations, Varnish is our best solution for page cache. It's available in any Magento version, whether it's community or enterprise. We carefully monitor all version updates related to Varnish, as well as extend our sample configuration file for Varnish. In 2.1, we are adding support for Elastic search engine. So in addition to Solr, you will get Elastic. Both Solr and Elastic have pretty similar performance, but Elastic will come with a bunch of juicy functional features. And for those of you, as it was mentioned before, we are introducing integration of Rabbit message queue server. For those of you who are seeking for asynchronous jobs execution in Magento, this is definitely a good solution. We already have a bunch of features leveraging this mechanism in Magento itself, as well as a set of features on the way. So would like to engage you to use Rabbit message queue integration for executing of asynchronous jobs in your extensions, for instance. In terms of development experience, Magento 2 has its own specific plugin for Z-Ray. So now you can profile your extension or Magento code, having access to all specific Magento 2 information, including events that were raised during the page rendering, interceptors that were called, all the objects created on the page. You can easily find Magento 2 plugin for Z-Ray in plugins gallery. And just a small advertisement, Z-Ray now can be installed as a pure PHP extension, so it doesn't require then server installation, as well as totally free in beta version. In addition, we have new Relic module available with Magento 2 code, so you can easily exchange information with New Relic server and monitor your conversion rate or some performance metrics. After all the performance features integrations, I'd like to acquaint you with solutions we have for scalability. Let's see how your environment can evaluate, what kind of evolution your environment can pass when you need to serve more and more clients. We'll start from a very simple case, a tiny store running on a simple environment, just a single box, possibly virtual machine. So all the services are sitting on the same server. When you need to serve more and more clients, you'll definitely move your caching server and database to separate servers, as well as add more web nodes to a cluster and balance the load. When you have a lot of web nodes, you'll definitely need a separate session and caching servers. Magento 2 supports an opportunity to have each cache type stored on a separate server. And if you add media server to the schema, this will be a maximum opportunity for your scalability that is available in Magento 2 community version. In case you're ready to jump into enterprise segment, and obviously leverage enterprise version of Magento, you will get a bunch of additional scalability opportunities. First of all, on database layer, up to 3 master databases, each one for most loaded business domains in Magento, one for catalog, one for checkout load, and one for servant order management operations. And as well as configurable number of slave databases. Each Magento resource can have its own slave database. So having this database layer, you'll be totally sure that database will be never a bottleneck for serving your requests. And additional benefit of Magento 2 is that Magento takes all connection management and data access management on itself. What does it mean? In your extensions, you don't need to manage read and write connections separately anymore. Magento will automatically resolve and launch necessary connection based on request type and data you are working on. So in case it is GET request, Magento will automatically route it to slave database. In case it is PUT, delete, or POST request, it will work with certain master database. If we add to this schema scaled job queue server, as well as scaled search, now I believe you are sure that there is nothing impossible for Magento 2 in terms of serving your high load. Actually, that's all the features. Now let's check some measurement results to get a confirmation that Magento 2 features really matters for your performance. As we highly care about your experience with Magento 2 and about performance, we are going to provide the maximum details on profiles, environments, and configurations we used for this testing. So we are totally confident that Magento 2 provides absolutely amazing performance. Together with our team, we run a bunch of measurement tests targeted to test Magento performance from different sides. First of all, is benchmark test built on top of performance toolkit. The one is available in Magento 2 code. Main target of this testing is to emulate real store load and check how Magento behaves under load. We have a bunch of tools validating Magento client-side performance or Magento client-side optimization, as well as stress testing mechanism to the main target of this one is to load system up to the point of maximum saturation database layer and check how system behaves under extremely huge load. For example, in case of Black Friday or Cyber Monday sales, and a bunch of other tests. We'll talk about them in depth a bit later. Let's start with a benchmark test first. Actually, in order to understand needs of our merchants, we conducted a number of conversations with our partners, system integrators, and merchant representatives, and tried to understand what hardware, what technologies, what services, and what load is the most applicable in each exact case. Based on the information we collected, we created 3 representable performance profiles. Actually, all of them are aligned with store size and store profiles available in Performance Toolkit. So let's start with a small merchant. Small merchant is the kind of merchant or hobbyist businessman doing from $100,000 or several $100,000 revenue per year up to $1 million revenue per year. This is the kind of merchant running its Magento on shared hosting. I believe this kind of merchant that doesn't have a lot of opportunities to perform frequent software updates or get absolutely all the services that are recommended. And we target this size of merchant as Magento 2 community version client. So 15 concurrent threads will be used for testing of this merchant. You can see the distribution. 9 threads will perform catalog browsing. 4 will perform browsing and add products to cart, as well as rest. 2 threads will perform checkout. Going up to medium-sized merchant that has complete control of all technologies used in its store. We summarized hardware as an average case for this merchant. Hardware is 12 cores machine, so 4 cores for database and 1 or 2 web nodes. This is definitely Magento 2 enterprise client, and merchants that already has an opportunity to leverage best caching options, which is Varnish for Magento 2 and full page cache for Magento 1. And 50 concurrent threads will be used for testing of this size of merchant. Going up to large merchant, definitely a merchant that does not follow any compromise in terms of technologies and environment. Obviously, Magento 2 enterprise clients, as well as leverage all scalability solutions available in Magento 2, and 100 threads will be used to test this ISO merchant. We will start with the results for small merchant first. Let's check them. Just a brief explanation about the data on this slide. In top right corner, you will find an info block, a reminder, and description of the configuration that has been used for testing this size of merchant. Top graphics demonstrating response time we get during our tests. So the lower is better. Bottom graphics is the throughput, opposite to response time. The higher throughput you get is better because the higher throughput you get, you can serve more clients during the time. So as you can see, if you compare Magento 1 against Magento 2 community version, Magento 2 will provide you better response time on all catalog operations, as well as better add to cart time, and definitely higher throughput on both scenarios. Let's move to checkout. In terms of checkout, again, better results on Magento 2 side in terms of response time. Throughput will be lower, but fully compensated if you run Magento 2 on PHP 7. Actually, as you can see from results, PHP 7 can give you additional performance boost comparing to PHP 5.6. Okay, let's imagine you are not a small merchant anymore and you like to jump into enterprise segment and become a medium merchant at least. So this is definitely a point when you need to leverage best caching options available in Magento 2, which is Varnish, as well as activate full page cache for Magento 1 Enterprise Edition. Definitely, Varnish will make it work and serve your catalog request, cache catalog request as fast as possible, as well as release resources for serving non-cached requests. As a result, absolutely confident win in both competition categories, whether it's response time or throughput. Response time will be lower in Magento 2, and throughput will be higher. If you use an effective tandem of Magento 2 and PHP 7, you will get additional performance boost. Checkout for medium-sized merchant, pretty similar distribution as on catalog pages, better response time, and higher throughput on Magento 2 side. In case you run Magento 2 on PHP 7, you'll get absolutely amazing performance. Just a reminder, this is a medium-sized merchant doing from $1 million to $10 million revenue per year and running 50 threads. 50 threads, by the way, it's not the same as 50 users because users will push buttons much slower than robots do, and we use robots for testing of performance. Let's check how Magento behaves when it comes to large merchant load. So again, Magento 2 provides better performance. In case you run Magento 2 with PHP 7 Rocket, you can double your performance results and serve more clients within the hour. And checkout results will be the last benchmark for today. Again, pretty similar distribution, uncompromisingly better result on Magento 2 side, as well as we highly engage you to use Magento 2 together with PHP 7 to double your performance gain. Okay, when server-side response is prepared, we are switching to client-side. In order to evaluate how Magento 2 pages are optimized in terms of client-side performance, we use three tools: Web Page Test, PageSpeed by Google, and YSlow by PhantomJS. These tools, each of these tools has unique set of rules allowing to evaluate how your store pages are optimized for further loading and read in browser or in client browser. Actually, as you can see, Magento 2 already gains highest mark according to Web Page Test and PageSpeed, as well as much higher mark according to YSlow. By the way, most of internet resources, including Twitter and Facebook, get lower mark than Magento 2. In order to get these results, all you need is just to install Magento 2 into production mode, as well as activate compression module in your web server. Now let's switch to a classical stress testing measurement, demonstrating how Magento 2 can easily deal with your active sales period load. So the sense of this test is to load your database layer up to maximum saturation So to check there are no bottlenecks on database layer and that you can easily deal with period of active sales in your store. As you could see, Magento did it tangibly better in both operations, catalog operations and checkout. If you run Magento 2 on PHP 7, you can double your result. By the way, accounting feedback from previous Imagine, we changed catalog browsing scenario for this testing. So now it doesn't hit only pages cached in Varnish, but perform add to cart operations and leverage PHP side of Magento. So just a confirmation that it's not because of Varnish, but effective combination of Varnish and all other performance solutions available in Magento 2. And bunch of additional measurements. This will be most interesting to those of you who work with store administration activities. So Magento 2 provides solid support of concurrently working store administrators, whether it's product management or order management. 25 plus concurrently working store administrators can work on product creation and product editing operations independently on what kind of indexation mode you selected, whether it's update on save or update on schedule. Just a reminder, in Magento 1, it was a change when you had several store administrators working on product management in update on save mode. Order management can support 50 plus concurrently working users, as well as this number is fully independent on how much load you have on your storefront checkout, because Magento 2 separates load on storefront checkout and order management. And two more measurements, actually that also deserves to be mentioned. It's import and export performance that has been reworked as well. Now you can import 100,000 products into a database in less than 20 minutes, as well as export the same amount of products in less than 6 minutes. So as you can see from results, performance is highly critical for Magento 2 project, and our engineering team working on an everyday basis to bring you a better experience, and we are going to keep the same speed in each further releases. Now let me briefly share with you our best practices or recommendations on what should be done in terms of environment, services, and Magento 2 itself in order to get the same results. By following recommendations you see on next slides, you will always get the highest scores and highest performance with Magento 2. First of all, let's talk about environment. As it was mentioned several times, Magento 2 supports 2 web servers, Nginx and Apache. For your convenience, as for any integration within and for any service within Magento 2, we have sample configuration files. This file already contains all recommended settings, whether it's just for running your store or for performance. So you can be absolutely sure that these settings are absolutely ready to go, so you can use them totally. The only things that you need to manage by yourself in terms of web server is max clients setting in case you run Apache with mod/perf, or max children count in case you run Nginx with PHP FPM. This one identifies how many processes will be created to serve your request. So this one should be tuned based on expected load in your store. The rest is pre-configured in sample configuration files. In terms of PHP, we highly engage you to use the latest version of PHP. As you could notice from measurement results, Magento 2 and PHP 7 together provides absolutely perfect performance. Definitely, PHP will not demonstrate at maximum power without providing sufficient memory limit. We recommend to have 700 megabytes. For all the tests we just demonstrated, we used this memory limit. This doesn't mean that Magento will not launch on less memory limit, but 700 megabytes is total enough to do everything with your store. Opcache module is absolutely the must for nowadays, as well as you can see recommended settings for Opcache. So with these settings, PHP 7 and PHP 5.6 can demonstrate its maximum opportunities. And one additional observation, Xdebug, if it is activated, can add extra time to your response. So we highly engage you to deactivate it in case you are preparing for production launch or just want to evaluate your final performance. In terms of database, default MySQL settings are totally okay. We use them for all the tests. The only case when you need to jump into MySQL configuration file and tune anything is the case of extremely huge load. There are also some things that should be done on Magento side in order to get maximum performance. First of all is deploy of static content. As it was mentioned, here you can see a CLI command to execute this operation. By executing this command, Magento 2 will go through all themes configuration file, process themes fallback information, as well as run through modules and collect static files, execute less preprocessing, minification of static content, and put all this preprocessed content into pub directory. By running deploy of static content in advance, you will save time on all these operations, and in case you don't run it in advance, you will add extra time to your response. Second step is compilation or running preprocessing of dependency injection instructions. By executing command you see on the screen, Magento will analyze some information about your classes, their relations, as well as preprocess configuration, and store all this cached information in specific file. So by compiling your Magento, you will save from 15 to 25% of time on your response. And the final step is turning the production mode. So remember, in case you develop something, you need to be in developer mode. In case you evaluate performance or prepare for production launch, it should be production mode. It can be set in Nginx configuration or each file for Nginx or in HTXS for Apache. And there are definitely a bunch of Magento configuration settings that you would like to activate for getting better performance. In terms of server side, it's the same way as in Magento 1. All your indexers should be activated, as well as we recommend to switch them into update on schedule mode. All caches should be turned on as well. Varnish is a recommended solution for page cache. In terms of regular cache storage, there is no much sense in having Redis in case you run your store just on a single web node, because you'll spend additional time on connecting to Redis, transfer information. So in case you have just a single node, it makes sense to put your cache into random access memory file system. It will be faster. Two absolutely new features available in Magento 2. It's asynchronous emailing. This one will protect you from any delays when connecting to mail server. And asynchronous order management system grid reindexing. Pretty complex name for the feature, but easily speaking, it will help to separate your load from storefront checkout, from order management operations by putting separate resources to work on different sites. So all your checkouts will go to one portion of tables, and all your order management system will work with another set of tables. This way you'll avoid any conflicts between these two operations. In terms of client-side features, we definitely recommend to activate your minification for styles, JavaScript, and HTML. JavaScript resource bundling is kind of specific feature in case you are ready to have more heavy first call to Magento and allow your Magento to load all the JavaScript and cache it on browser side. This is definitely a feature for you. In case first impression of Magento store is something you fight for, then you should skip this feature. Caching of static content. Pretty well configured out of the box in Magento within sample configuration files for your web server. So the only case when you need to jump and tune anything for caching of your static content is the case when you add custom type of static content that is not declared in Magento 2. And catalog images resizing and catalog images compression. Magento 2 comes together with a CLI command that allows you to resize and recompress your images in advance. So by executing this command, you will pass all your catalog images through this process and save the time and avoid running of this operation in runtime. Magento 2 performance is actually one of key goals for the whole project. We are going to keep the same speed and improving your experience and performance of Magento in further releases. And there's definitely a lot of work to do because there is always a room for improvements, but we are totally sure that together with our strong team, with your support, and with perfect Magento 2 ecosystem, we can change the world of e-commerce. Thank you for your attention.